So it is back, the Project Megapack Airbus A330 for Microsoft Flight Sim on PC. Today I'll be talking about this freeware add-on that you can download once again off the Project Megapack website. What's good about it, what's bad about it, and whether or not it's worth your time. Hello guys, it's Brandon here bringing you up to date with all things Microsoft Flight Sim. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you love everything about aviation, but without further delay, let's get right into it. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Project Megapack, they've been around for quite some time now. Basically they were the sort of bringers of the first major add-ons for Microsoft Flight Sim in the form of liveries for default aircraft back in September of 2020. They then basically got really big and started releasing products such as the freeware A330, and then suddenly they just disappeared. I don't know, but it doesn't matter, they're back. Anyway, they've re-released their A330, and by re-releasing it, they've brought over some new things to it. Some new fixes and some updates. Now what they've also done as well is merged the A330 improvement mod, which you used to be able to pick up off flightsim.to, with the standard release. Now I don't know whether that's the only change that's brought over this aircraft to a slightly higher level, but there certainly are still some bugs with it. So let's get right into it. Now as you can see, with Sim Update 10 it looks pretty nice. There's also plenty of liveries you can download off flightsim.to for the Project Megapack A330. Now one thing I would say is that there's already an A330 out, the Headwind A330-900 Neo, and in my opinion that one is a little bit better, purely because you can use the fly-by-wire compatibility mod with that. I don't believe you can use a fly-by-wire compatibility mod with this one just yet. It used to be able to, but I don't think it's been updated for this new release. So that means you're going back in time and using default A320 systems in this aircraft, and that for me is a big no-no. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure some people will still love flying it, but to be fair, fly-by-wire A320 systems are sort of like the base for flight sim systems now, in this case with Airbuses anyway. Of course we've got the Phoenix A320 on one side of the scale, and then the A320 NX by fly-by-wire definitely provides some pretty good systems for all Airbus aircraft, although of course they're not 100% suited to the A330. To be fair to the Project Megapack team, they have brought over some edits into the systems, the default systems, upgrading the default MCDU and things like that. Now talking about the cockpit as well, of course as you can see it's not the standard default A320 cockpit, which is fantastic. Different throttle quadrant, the cockpit's a bit bigger, and there's also tiny little nuances as well that come along with the cockpit being slightly larger. So it's clear they have spent some effort here and it's very nice to see. But I don't know if it's seen any major updates from the last release all the way early 2021. Speaking about the internals a bit more with sound, there's new sound models that you do hear, but I'm getting some weird bugs with sound. It seems like instead of the engines being gradual, if you go full power, there's sort of like this 10 seconds of silence. I don't really know how to explain it, but if you're used to flying the A320, you'd definitely notice it. And if you're used to being in an aircraft, you'll really notice it, because at times it sounds a bit quieter than I imagine it should.
60, 50, 40.
Now don't get me wrong, they might have got it bang on, but in my opinion I think they should just turn it up a bit, and it would sound pretty good, I reckon. Nice to see some effort there though. But once again, if you're used to flying the fly-by-wire A320 at the very least, which has fantastic sounds, you're going to feel a bit let down, because this is almost taking a bit of a step backwards. Not to say it's a bad thing, it's definitely not a bad product, it's freeware at the end of the day, so you can't complain, but if you're used to something a bit more, like the fly-by-wire A320 at the very least, then you might feel a bit disheartened here. Now what about flight model? This has got an interesting flight model. Now I'm used to flying the Headwind A330-900 Neo, and that's got a fantastic flight model. Flies like how you'd expect. Now of course, I've never flown an A320 or an A330 for that matter, so take it as you will. But this one sort of feels like the default 747. It really does like to float. Now the A330 in real life is notorious for being super smooth on landing, in part thanks to its tilted landing gear. You don't really get this with this A330, you do sort of have to push it into the ground because you do find it floats. That of course results in a very hard landing. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure if you got everything perfectly right you'd have a good landing, but if you're used to the headwind A330, which has got a pretty good flight model, you'll definitely feel this floats a bit. Now moving outside to the external model, it's not great to be fair. It does feel a bit rushed, especially moving towards the nose cone. It doesn't really look how like the A330 looks. The same with engines, you'll notice they flicker. And on the wing, you'll notice the ailerons, slats and flaps are almost separated from the wing body, with nothing linking, which I imagine in real life is a tad bit dangerous. It just looks a bit sloppy in my opinion. As I've said, it is freeware, so at the end of the day, these guys have put more effort into the freeware community than I have. But to me, it just feels like they've rushed release to launch Project Megapack back up. I don't like to moan about products like this because of course it doesn't deserve it. These people have put time, effort and their heart into it. But we've got an alternative, and that is the Headwind A330. And if you want a good experience, I do recommend you head that way. All I can say to the Project Megapack team is good luck. I hope they do improve this product, and hey, in the right conditions, this still does look really awesome. Sim Update 10 definitely helps there with reflections. It does look beautiful in some cases, but even in the right light, you do notice that modelling is a bit funky, especially towards the front of the aircraft and on the wings. Also, we need a bit more texturing on the wheels, in my opinion, and on the fuselage as a whole. It's really cool to see the freeware Airbus A330 by Project Megapack back, but in my opinion, there's clearly some work that needs to go on with it, and I'm sure they will do it. If we can get a fly-by-wire compatibility mod out, that would definitely improve it tenfold. If sounds could be sorted out, that would also improve it. And maybe an overhaul of the external modelling. Don't get me wrong, in the cockpit is pretty good, regardless of systems. It looks like an A330, so you can't really ask for much more, but it's clear a bit more effort needs to be spent onto it if it wants to compete with the Airbus A330-900neo by a headwind, and at the end of the day they're both freeware, so it's nice to see them. You can pick it up with a link down below. From me today, that is all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this add-on showcase. I'll see you around. Bye bye.